everybody, this is Grimmi. Welcome to Grimmi's Unwanted Opinions. This is a series where I talk about any subject that I have an opinion on, I tell you what it is and why I have it. Now today is going to be a long video. I will be telling you what I think of Voltron Legendary Defender. I did a poll where I asked you what type of video layout you would want. Majority wanted that I do one long video with all my opinions, but a few people wanted separate specific videos about specific categories. So as a compromise, I have put all of the timestamps of the different topics I'm talking about in the description and on a pinned comment down below, so that if a topic particularly interests you, you can just skip to that rather than hear me talking about something you don't really care about. If I miss anything in the video, I will make a part 2, either expanding my thoughts on something or talking about something I didn't mention that I think needs mentioning. Again, I will say this throughout the video a lot, but this is all just my opinion. It's not a review, it's not a criticism, it's what I think, and I am putting my opinion on the internet because I can. So if you like a character or a ship or a plot point that I don't like, completely fine. Like, obviously everybody has their own opinions about, what they like or don't like, and if I like something that you don't like, I hope we can still be civil in the comments if anybody wants to start a discussion. With that said, let's get started. In this section, I will speak about 3 things: the plot/story, the animation, and the voice actors. I will be strictly speaking of the show as its own thing, as I will speak about some fandom related things and controversies later. Starting with the plot. I will go through all of the seasons fairly quickly, saying if I like it or not, what I particularly enjoyed, and what I didn't like. Then at the end, I will make a quick conclusion. If I don't mention something you thought was important, it may be either because I don't really have anything to say about it, or because I speak of it later in the video, or I've just forgotten about it. Remember that this is only my opinion, all of it based off of the canon that I saw. This is my second favourite season. The introduction to the characters are very well done, and I love the first few episodes of seeing the Paladins all trying to work together and getting over personal problems and differences. We get some really funny moments like episode 2 when they try to form Voltron and whenever Coran is on screen. Some sad moments like when Lance gets homesick in episode 6 or the scenes on the Marmora. My personal highlight was all the moments we got of Sendak, since he is the first villain we are truly introduced to and gives us a standard of what to expect from the Galra. He makes us anxious about just how far the Galra are willing to go for victory, and it's very well done. I have no complaints about this season, everything is new and fresh and we have no idea what to expect. Again, a very good season, packed full of action and interesting stories. Everything being well balanced with humour, action and sad moments. We are introduced to the idea of the Blade of Marmora, giving us a new side of the Galra we hadn't expected before, showing us that there is more to them than we think. We also get more insight on some of the characters, especially Keith and Shiro, and get to know them better. My highlights were all of the Blade of Marmora moments, Slav and Shiro's interactions of course, and Zarkon's fight at the end. I also really like Shiro's and Zarkon's fight in the astral plane because it was just so aesthetically pleasing. No complaints here, it's a fun season which keeps us entertained and interested the whole way through. I personally believe that after season 2, this is when things start to go downhill for the show. This season starts off with a new arc very well. Despite Zarkon being defeated, the problems aren't over and Voltron is still very much needed, but there is no Shiro. I think this creates tension among the characters, especially since Shiro is so central to the team. We meet Lotor and the generals, giving us a new character with an interesting background, and everything is a mess. It's great. Shiro coming back is a relief, I guess, but personally, it just seemed too easy for him to come back, and I really didn't like how that was, done in the show. I wish they had either waited till later for him to come back, or he just didn't come back at all. So because I had those opinions, I was suspicious of this Shiro from the very start. The whole quintessence and alternate reality thing is a little confusing, but I like the concept and the show deals with it pretty well, though I think it would be good to explain it more. I really loved how we finally learned about the original Paladins and how Zarkon and Haggar became evil, and overall the season gave a good foundation for the next season to work off, albeit being a very short one. Another short season, but we finally get to see Matt. Not to mention that Keith leaving the team and working for the Blades is an interesting route to take. The Voltron show was also interesting and fun, giving us some laughter before the harder episodes came in. I think the thing that freaked me out the most was how in the last episode, Keith almost sacrificed himself and nobody seems to even talk about it, especially when he looks so horrified afterwards. That should have been addressed, but then again, there are a lot of character-related things that Voltron doesn't touch on, which I think is a big problem for most of the seasons. Matt and Pidge get their dad back. That made me so happy. And we get Crawlia, which is really awesome. Honestly, I'm kind of neutral about this season. It's a bit all over the place of Orient and quintessence stuff, and it's interesting, but it really should have been explained more. I absolutely adored episode 5, the Kralzera, because we get Sendak back, looking as fine as heck. Not to mention, we get an insight on Galra culture, and we get more Galra characters. This was definitely a fun episode for me, and a real treat. This season really sped up the tempo. Things went from, okay, we're getting stuff sorted out, to, oh Quiznat, we're all gonna die in a matter of 7 episodes. Still, it was entertaining. The tension between Lance and Lotor because of their interest in Allura, Lotor's Altean colony, the Monster and Mana episode which was full of foreshadowing, the reveal of Shiro being actually dead, and the whole clone thing. A lot happened and it was all quite intense. And oh gosh, the Keith and Shiro fight. It was beautiful. And heartbreaking, but awesome. The fight against Lotor was cruel, but what really messed me up is how they had to sacrifice the Castle of Lions to steal the rifts in space after Voltron comes out of the quintessence field. I never thought I would be so attached to a spaceship, but I almost legit cried. Shiro being brought back to life was fine, but I wasn't too keen on his hair colour change, because I prefer him with black hair, and I don't know, I didn't really like the fact that he came back to life at all. I thought it wasn't necessary, because as a character, he's done now, you know, he's not really useful for anything anymore, to be honest. But I guess Shiro is now really Shiro, you know, because Shiro is white in Japanese, and Shiro is Japanese. Moving on. My favourite season, no questions asked. Why? Was it the action? The Paladins going home? The game show episode? The generals? Lance and Pidge being reunited with their families and parents? Hunk getting more screen time? Heck, the garrison people? And to that I say nay. Well, no, not exactly. I liked all of those things as well. I really enjoyed the first 2 episodes too because of the funny moments, but no. The real reason why I loved this season was because of one character and one character only. Sendak. My boy finally got the screen time he deserved. Although I didn't like how they killed him off at the end, it really annoyed me how Keith was the one to kill him and not Shiro. I know a lot of people argued over this in the fandom. Some were saying that Keith being the one to kill Sendak showed that Shiro didn't need to fight on his own. However, I really disagree. It was unsatisfying and disappointing. With such an amazing climax to the fight, it should have been Shiro to kill Sendak, who is pretty much the foil to his character. A foil character is a character who contrasts another character, usually the protagonist, to highlight particular qualities of that character. Basically, Sendak is what Shiro would have become if he joined the Galra Empire. They are polar opposite characters. How I would have dealt with Sendak's death is that Keith goes to kill Sendak in the show, but Sendak, being faster and stronger, would stop him, and while he's holding him in midair, basically strangling him, Keith would be suffocating, and Shiro would find the strength in him to attack Sendak and kill him, therefore saving Keith. Keith have saved Shiro a billion times. I think Shiro needs to give the favour back once in a while. That would have been so much more satisfying to me. I mean, I prefer if Sendak didn't die, but if he had to, well, yeah. Okay, so, controversial opinion here. I like season 8. Now, before you come at me with pitchforks and tell me how wrong I am, remember, this is just my opinion. Overall, the season was really rushed, even when compared to the other seasons. And I've heard that apparently a whole bunch of scenes were cut out from the original version, which makes sense where everything is quite choppy and doesn't flow well together. As a comic writer and artist, it really got to me, since a lot of the story was like, and then this happens, and then that happens, when the story should be, this happens, so because of this, that happens, which leads on to this to happen. Season 8 had no flow whatsoever, and everything seemed to just be thrown together like a weird spaghetti dish with too many toppings that don't mix well. But I quite liked the story and Honerva's plot. It was interesting, albeit a little out there. Probably my favorite thing about the season is Slav and Sam's Holt interactions. I found them hilarious. Being an Allurance shipper, I was obviously over the moon about it becoming canon, and you'd think I hate the ending, but I actually liked it. It was bittersweet and heartbreaking, but somehow I was okay with it. It made sense to me. Allura is a life giver, contrasting with Honerva being a life destroyer. That fits her character. Is it the ideal ending? No, absolutely not. But it was a good ending for me. Concerning the end cards, I liked them. I thought it was cool to see how all the characters were doing. Curtis and Shiro's wedding didn't really come as a surprise to me all that much. Seeing how Curtis was cheering him on at the arm wrestling match, I thought they'd probably do something with that, but it did come out a bit of nowhere and I'm sort of bleh about it. Besides that, I really enjoyed the 2-second moment of Sendak in episode 2, and I love the alternate universe Honerva went to where there was a young Sendak as well. Overall, Voltron is a really fun show, with interesting characters and a strong plot. However, I think the main problem of the show is that it has pacing problems and the pacing is completely off. After season 2, everything started going downhill and things went by really quickly. I mean, a fast pace can be good, but it doesn't give you the time to really give proper character development, or tiny loose ends with continuity, or answer any unanswered questions that people may have. I think that if the show had simply taken a breath and slowed down a bit, they would have been able to really go into depth with the world building, the characters, and making sure everything made sense and aligned correctly. I truly believe that the pacing is the main source of the problems, or at least majority of the flaws the show has, and if that had been sorted out, the show would have been able to reach its full potential, especially when it comes to character development and pulling at our heartstrings. I've also been told that creators have come and went during the making of Voltron, which would explain the major plot holes, unanswered questions and missed opportunities if loads of different writers and creators were, continuously changing and nobody could decide on a single story. Unfortunately, I find that after season 2, that's when the show really started deteriorating into an absolute mess with a whole bunch of missed and wasted potential. Moving on to the animation, I have nothing to say. It's gorgeous and I love it. I can't complain. It's so fluid, the character designs are intriguing and beautiful, especially the Galra. The action scenes were amazing and the colors are very well balanced and the art style is really appealing to me. My favorite animation parts are Keith and Shiro's fight and Sendak and Shiro's fight. That's all, I just love it. As well as with the voice acting, again, I can't complain with it. I'd say that it's probably the strongest point of the show along with the animation. The voices fit the characters so well and you can feel the emotion behind every word. It's as if each voice actor was born just to voice these characters. Voices are incredibly important to me in a character, especially for me to like them. I've already spoken about this in my Sendak speed paint video, but I think that a good voice can really make a character. The animation could be gorgeous and the character design could be really cool, but if the voice doesn't fit, it can really mess up a character. So I think the voice acting is phenomenal. In this part, I will talk about either an individual character if I have enough to say about them, or a group of very similar characters if I don't have much to say. I will only gloss over each character and try not to get into too many details because otherwise this will never end. Again, I'm only concentrating on what I've seen in the canon, not what I've been told from the fandom. Quick example. If the fandom, or even the creators, were to say that Lance is a LeaKira fan and can play the guitar, I won't talk about that because it's not shown in the canon. It's either a fanon headcanon or something the characters merely said but didn't show. It must be shown or at least obviously suggested in the show for me to even consider it. I hope that clears things up. Also, I won't be talking about Adam. That's going in the controversies section. And again, this is just my opinion. I will go from my least favourite paladin to my most favourite paladin. I'll even put a little chart to show you my ranking of the characters. Make note though, just because a paladin is ranked low does not mean I don't like them. I like all of them, but I have an order. Initially, I disliked Keith. He just seemed like the generic emo anime boy to me, and those kind of character tropes are just boring. I don't really like the broody and angsty type teen boys characters, and his design really wasn't my type, so I just kind of pushed him to the side. However, he eventually grew on me over the seasons, especially with his interesting Galra heritage and the background, as well as his little adventures when he wasn't part of the team. I like him now when he's interacting with the other characters, but I still find him kind of boring on his own, although he definitely has some great moments and the show wouldn't be the same without him. This is just a me thing, but I do have a bias against female characters. That's mainly because I don't relate to girls at all and tend to be more interested into the male characters. But I quite liked Allura from the beginning. She is a princess trope character, but the fact that she's Altean makes her different and more interesting. Like Keith, she grew on me as the show went on, and while I think her abilities started to get a bit crazy at some points, Allura is definitely a princess I'd be happy to serve. She's kind, sweet, caring, and can kick ass when needed. I can't have one without the other, to be honest. I love Hunk+Pidge the most when they're interacting with each other, since it's usually a really funny moment. I also love the little interactions we get with them and their family, especially Pidge and her mum. Individually, Hunk has a heart of gold and he deserves all of the hugs in the universe, while Pidge is an adorable little gremlin with an attitude, and I find them both extremely endearing. Shiro was definitely my favourite paladin for a long time. His design was really appealing to me and his backstory was interesting. The mystery surrounding him made me want to know more about him, and I related to him being the mum friend, or the dad friend because space dad. I think that after season 2 though, his character goes downhill, especially with the whole clone thing, and his design deteriorated for me since I preferred him with black hair rather than white hair. One thing I particularly love about Shiro are his eyes. They're so soft and kind looking. I've always loved Lance from the very beginning. While funny and flirty, he still had some serious moments I could enjoy, and him being homesick and missing his family really got to me. After season 2 and Shiro becoming a little less likable for me, I really started getting interested in Lance and rooting for him more. I don't think there's anything I can say that I don't like about Lance. If anything, I'd say that because of the constraints of the show, he didn't get as fleshed out as some of the other characters, which for him being one of the main characters is saying something. Although with what I got, I really like him. He's a sweetheart, misses home, and goes from a flirtatious goof to a pretty mature young man, which I really like seeing over the seasons. I'm aware people don't like that Lance became a farmer in the credits for different reasons, but the reason that it's because Lance's dream at the beginning of the show was to be a pilot is complete bullcrap. Dreams and ambitions change all the time, and he wanted to be with his family since season 1. So maybe he realized that his true happiness would be staying on Earth or wherever with his family. Also, I love the sharpshooter nickname he gave himself, it's so cute. Screwball, Coran is the best paladin. Jokes aside, Coran is my favourite among the paladin family. While not officially a paladin, I couldn't imagine them without our crazy space uncle. He always brings me a smile when he comes on screen, because despite being a hilarious character, he has some really sweet moments, especially with Allura. I think the most heartbreaking thing about Coran for me is that he never got a chance to say goodbye to Allura in season 8. Coran, the gorgeous man. I like pretty much everybody. I think they're a bit of a bore at times, but the little interactions we saw in season 8 were quite enjoyable for me. Pidge's family is the best, I love them. Sam and Colleen are such awesome parents, and Matt is an angel, no matter his hairstyle. While we know basically nothing about her, Matt's girlfriend, who I believe is called N7, is really cute and her design is so pretty. I love how she was included in the family photo during the Clear Day episode. Lotor's generals, Zethrid, Axa, Narti, and Izor are all kinda meh to me. I was never interested in them and just always saw them as characters that would die off eventually or be forgotten. The designs were cool and they had some funny moments, but overall I don't really care. Axa grew on me in season 7 and I like her interactions with Keith, but Izor and Zethrid were always in the gonna die category for me. I was actually kind of annoyed when they were alive in season 8 because they took more screen time from the main story, but I do like how they ended up helping Keith with the Blade of Marmora. But even with that, I don't consider them Galra, they're just kind of the other characters that happen to exist. I don't like Lotor, like, at all. I'm not big on pretty boy princely type of characters, and his design just really put me off. I'm aware that the Lotor stans will sacrifice me to him for saying this, but Lotor is really boring for me. Like, okay, he had a tragic past and bad things happened to him and he deserved better, I get it and I agree. But so has every other character in existence. I didn't trust him the second he came on screen, and I knew for a fact he would turn on the Paladins in the end, or there was some dirt on him to be found. However, I think Lotor is an incomplete character. The way he died and the reason behind his actions were really unsatisfying, and it felt like there would have been a continuation at some point, but there wasn't. A Lotor redeeming arc is something I would be absolutely fine with, because after everything has been said and done, Lotor did want to create a better world than his father made and preserve life like he did with the Alteans, something I can absolutely respect, despite going about it a really immoral and awful way. But honestly, with what we had in the show, I'm kind of sick of seeing his face everywhere. He really wasn't that great, and was a pretty generic, tragic, anti-villain / hero sort of character. Pretty boy prince types really annoy me, and he's one of those. However, I would die for child Lotor. That sweet child is gorgeous and beautiful, and his voice is so cute, and he deserved a happy upbringing. But adult Lotor sucks. Kinda meh for me. I think her story is interesting, but I preferred her as the evil witch Haggar and not the jealous Honerva. Although again, young Honerva is gorgeous and I think she's awesome. I loved her relationship with Zarkon, and I think if she hadn't been corrupted by quintessence, she would have been a great mother. When I say the Alteans, I mean all Alteans beside Coran, Allura, and Rommel, who, by the way, Rommel is really cute. And honestly, Alteans, they piss me off. I don't even know why. Just some of them, like Rommel, like I said, and Alfor, I'm fine with and I like them. But others, like the Alteans in Lotor's colony, can suck a cactus. They annoy me and I want to slap them, but I'm not sure why. Maybe I'm a bit biased though. Yeah, more on that later. Before I get to the characters I absolutely adore, let me get all of the other unmentioned characters. If I haven't mentioned them, it's probably because I'm fine with them. Either I don't have enough information on them to form an opinion, or it's like, oh cool, this character exists and I'm chill with that, I can appreciate them. That's it. Okay, now to my favourite characters. The Galra. Oh my god, I love the Galra. If Coran is in my love them category, the Galra are in the, if there was a Galra cult, not only would I be a member, I would be the freaking leader category. Okay, that's maybe exaggerating a little. But I do love the Galra, and I would say that they are easily the only reason why I watched the show till the end. Story be damned. It's also probably the reason why I don't like Alteans much, because they're pretty much the opposite of Galra. I think the Galra designs are so varied, individualized, and diverse despite all being purple, and I really wished we had more insight into their cultures and history, since I want to know more about them. Anyway, I have two types of Galra, the Blade of Marmora and the Empire Galra. Starting with the Blade of Marmora. Why do they all die? Regris, Antok, Thace, Ulars, those killed in season 7 by the Druids. Regris and Antok were beautiful tailed boys. Ulars was introduced to us and ripped from my heart in a single episode, and Thace was a fluffy boy who deserved the world. Why can't any of them live? Any. On the flip side, Krolia. I really like her, especially her family moments with Keith. And Kolivan. Don't get me started on Kolivan. When his face was revealed, I was literally squealing like a little girl. His design is gorgeous, his colors, his hair, his clothes, everything. I love his personality and how he warms up to Keith, essentially becoming a father figure to him. In season 7, when it was shown that Kolivan was actually alive, I was almost crying with relief. And his smiles! He has such a gorgeous smile! I'm happy that Krolia and Kolivan represent the Galra in the Voltron coalition. So yeah, Kolivan is my all-time second favorite character. Can you tell? Now, the Empire Galra. Where to start? Just assume that I love all the Galra. Randveig, Sniv, Rat, Ladnok, Branko, Dyak, Drick, Sal, Janka, Trug, Varkon, Prorok, Throg, Morvok, and Boch, I don't know, as well as any Galra I have missed, and those who are only background characters. I love them all. Characters I'm particularly fond are Hepta and Haxus, who I personally headcanon as being brothers or cousins. Despite seeing so little of them, I was instantly taken in by their designs and personalities. Also, Hepta is so adorable. Look at his face. I want to squish it. Oh, and Lahn, Lieutenant to Warlord. I love this guy. Definitely the highlight of season 8 for me was the episode he was in. I thought it was so cool that it added some insight into what his life was like for him and for the others of his, ranks. And not gonna lie, I kind of liked how he shut down Allura by saying they weren't alike.
You've never had to earn power. It's always been given to you. You're looking for something you once had. Security, peace, happiness. Those things have never been part of a Galra soldier's life. You and I are not the same.
I don't know, I was just like, yeah, tell him, man, good on ya. Does that mean to Allura? Probably. Next, Zarkon. Do I like his actions? Absolutely not. Is he the worst of the worst in terms of what he did? Yes, of course. But I still think he's an awesome character, especially after his kind of redemption episode in season 8. Like with Honerva, I think he would have been an awesome dad to Lotor had he not been corrupted by quintessence. I think his fight with Shiro was really cool, and as a character, I think he's a badass villain as a super cool design. And last, but not least, Sendak. He is the reason why he stuck around in the show in the first place. I'm pretty sure you could tell earlier on in the video that I was just mentioning all the moments Sendak merely appeared, and since seeing him in season 1, I was like, "Shout to the heart, and you're too late." Well, whatever the lyrics are, because damn, I was sucked into the mess that is Voltron after a single glimpse of that fluffy boy. His return in season 5 was a blessing to my eyes, and season 7 was my favorite season only because of Sendak. Still annoyed at his death, but I've already talked about that. I could do an entire video on Sendak alone and what I love about him and why, and my headcanons for his character. And I've already spoke about him in 2 speed paints, and which is more than I can say for any other canon characters of any show. Basically, his design is awesome, and it gets better in season 5. His fights are always breathtaking and beautiful. He's a badass, an evil badass, but a badass all the same. He's the perfect example of what a Galra is and how they can be, and just generally, I love how fluffy he is, but how intimidating he can be. Sendak could freaking obliterate me with an iron cannon. I would still be kissing the ground he walks on, even after death. And I wish I was kidding.
Go Galra! Go Galra! Go Galra! Go Galra!
Shipping! Controversial topic. Let's go! Shipping is weird to me. People take it so seriously, despite it being obvious that 99.9% of any ships will never be canon, and yet everybody thinks they will. I myself am a multi-shipper, but I still have opinions on several ships. Now, please understand, just because I ship something does not mean I want it to become canon, nor am I obsessed with it. To make it easier for everybody, I will explain how I ship things. I have fanon ships and then canon ships. Fanon ships are ships that I like seeing content of, but I don't really want them to become canon for whatever reason, be it because it doesn't make sense in the show or it's not needed, or because the show will probably just ruin it for me. And then I have canon ships, which are simply ships that I want to become canon for whatever reason. Now, I will only talk about a handful of ships since there are so many, so I'll say all of this now. By default, I am okay with any and all ships since the characters are fictional and don't affect real life. So, ships like Thulars, Hane, Allura and Koliro are ships where I am 100% chill with and can enjoy. I may not ship all of them, but I think they're fun, especially if they involve the Galra. If I don't ship something, or even hate a ship, that does not mean I hate those that do ship it. Any criticism I have of the ships do not reflect my opinions on the people who like the ship. The ships I will be speaking of are the more, let's say, controversial ones. Again, these are only my opinions and what I think of them, and I'm only talking about what I think of them from what I have seen in the show, not what's been happening in the fandom. I will only gloss over each one fairly quickly. I was kind of into it in season 7 and I could actually see it happening. I was told that a lot of Kacxa scenes were cut out of season 8 after the backlash from season 7, which is sad because I thought they were cute. If I had more content, I'd probably canon ship it. I know people think that Kacxa and Sheith are actually related somehow, but since we have no content actually confirming this, I don't take Kacxa and Sheith being related as canon. It's cute, I guess. Curtis is a good looking character and I liked him in season 8, but the wedding scene at the end definitely felt forced and out of nowhere, which I'm sure didn't even exist before the season 7 backlash. Honestly, I would have almost preferred to see Shiro being single and maybe going back to instructing at the garrison. Romance doesn't automatically equal happiness, and I think Shiro would have found more happiness in helping teach the next generation of legendary defenders or something. Heck, I'd even be fine with Shiro going on a date with Curtis, but marrying someone you barely know after a year seems incredibly rushed to me. Not to mention that Shiro did say that he didn't find anything more fulfilling than being a paladin, so him leading that life is a bit jarring. But then again, like I said with Lance, dreams and ambitions do change, and after everything he went through, it could make sense that Shiro would want to give up a life of fighting. I'm so about this ship. I see Pidge and Lance as having a brother-sister relationship more than a romantic one. I don't think age is even the problem because they could always get together when they're both a lot older, but it's just not really my thing. It's cute though, I'll give it that. This one I canon ship. As I said earlier, I can't have Pidge without Hunk and vice versa. I think they're really cute together and so pure. Not to mention they have a lot of cute moments throughout the series, be it bickering, teasing Lance, teaming up, or when they hugged in season 8. I just think it's a really wholesome ship. I started shipping Shallura around the same time as I started shipping Allurance, which is probably the very first episode to be honest. Allura and Shiro have such a space dad and space mum vibe that I absolutely love, and they had some really sweet and caring moments together. Although in the long run I sort of lost interest in it when I got more into Allurance, but I still fan and ship it. Unsurprising to anyone, I don't like this ship, like at all. And yes, me not liking Lotor plays a big part in it. But also because it was a manipulative 5-second not even relationship. As much as you can say that Lotor's feelings were genuine, which I'm sure they were, in the end he hid the truth to Allura about what he was doing to the Alteans. Manipulated and lied to her and the rest of the team and was generally not a great person. Not to mention that Allura's feelings really weren't that deep for Lotor. After the whole season 6 fiasco she got over him super quickly. Honestly, I think she got over him after she yeeted him across the room. It really wasn't that deep, fam. By the end of season 6, Allura was completely done with Lotor. I ship this hard. Oh, I love it. Pre-Quintessence corrupt Zarkon and Honerva is so cute and adorable. Zarkon's face when he first met Honerva made my heart melt, and Honerva's memories in season 8 almost brought me to tears. Oh, I love it. Shendak is a guilty pleasure ship of mine, and I regret nothing and I am ashamed of nothing. Okay, we're getting into hot waters now, let's go! I see Shiro and Sheith as brothers and nothing more. End of. I'm an only child, so I'm not 100% sure how siblings act, and I am aware that Shiro's and Sheith's relationship is a lot more intense. Intense is probably the wrong word to use, but you get my point, right? The show has to make their relationship as brothers to be more than what real life would be for emotional and dramatic effect. Heck, anime and other TV shows do it all the time. You can scream at me about whatever, but no, Keith said,
Shiro, please. You're my brother. I love you.
And by default, if you consider somebody your brother or sister, you don't find them romantically appealing. It's basically like being friend-zoned. Shiro and Keith are best bros and they love Brogane. Okay, look, I don't ship Klance. Never have and never will. I probably angered the entire Tumblr and 90% of the fan base by saying that. Yikes. But look, for me, as the show was, Klance was just a generic two boys arguing and slowly maturing to work together but still argue kind of ship, which I've seen a billion times over. It's not an interesting ship, it's pretty boring and dull. Well, Keith and Lance have some funny and sweet moments together, like everybody else in the team. They've made it very clear that they both annoy each other and get on each other's nerves, which isn't a good formula for a healthy relationship. Not to mention that the one-sided rivalry thing with Lance would definitely not be a healthy thing for either of them. Like, imagine you're Keith, just existing, and suddenly you get shut down by Lance for saying anything. While I love Lance, I certainly think his attitude to Keith in the first season was completely unwarranted. Sure, it was meant to be for laughs and it was funny, but for a blooming relationship between two people, it's not really a healthy start. Although as the seasons go, Keith and Lance definitely start to mature and eventually become emotionally supportive of one another, especially when Keith becomes a Black Paladin, since that is his job as the leader. And by the end of the show, they definitely have a strong friendship. However, so do the rest of the team. Due to their different endings, with Keith traveling to, through the universe and Lance staying on a farm with his family, I can't see them being together due to simply different interests. The Klance ship is generic, bland, and holds very little in the show. Not to mention that to actually ship it, you have to nitpick every single episode for anything mildly, possibly, maybe resembling Klance, when it could very well be just a background decoration that holds no significance, unless if you have the "there must be Klance" goggles on that almost the entire community has. Look, minus the controversies and drama behind the ship, it's a generic ship. It's nothing special. I mean, everybody seems to say that Allurance is sort of the easy, lazy ship, but Klance is even lazier and even more predictable, especially from the fandom point of view. It's like a less compatible version of Sasuke and Naruto, minus all the emotional events, minus all the real rivalry the two characters felt, because Keith never saw Lance as a rival, only Lance ever did. However, despite it being bland and generic, it's an innocent ship. It's your typical two main boy characters relationship sort of thing. It's nothing special. Like with Shallura, I shipped Lance since the very beginning, and I knew for a fact that it was going to become canon in some way or the other. Maybe not endgame, but I knew it was going to become canon. I do think that Allurance could have been dealt with a lot better, but with the constant change of writers, I'm not surprised that people think it came out of nowhere. However, there have been some blatant Allurance moments since the very first season. Lance's gradually stopping to flirt with anything mildly female-like was a big sign for me that his feelings for Allura were more than a flirtatious crush, although those were pretty funny too. Allura slowly warms up to Lance throughout the seasons too, especially in season 3 when Lance becomes the Red Paladin and Allura becomes the Blue Paladin and starts wearing the pink armor. I think Allura and Lance are great for each other. It's a really sweet and cute ship. Allura having no family except for Coran joining Lance's massive family is really wholesome to me. A little nitpick I have is that I wish they had saved Lance's "I love you" to Allura for the goodbye scene, which was heartbreaking and made me sob, which would have made it more emphasized with how much the goodbye scene was tragic. However, overall, it's my favorite Voltron ship. This is what I think of the Voltron fandom. I could scream for all eternity. Look, like in every fandom, there are some great and some awful people, but Voltron has to be the most toxic fandom I have ever seen, and I've been part of the Naruto, Sonic and Steven Universe fandom. Now, I have met some really awesome people in this fandom, and there are some gorgeous artworks and fanfics out there, as well as really cool theories and character analysis. Shout out to my fellow Galra stans who have to see all our favourite characters die. But generally, the fandom is really negative and toxic. So here is what I'm going to call the rant section. Here, I just tell you my genuine thoughts about what I honestly think about controversial topics that I have an opinion on. And it's probably the part where most people are going to either disagree on me or get really mad at me, which is completely fine. But heck, I'm a strong independent female and I will talk my mind like any other strong independent person. So out of my way, Tumblr, let me rant. Like I said earlier, if you're a Klance shipper, cool, you do you. I may not like the ship, but that shouldn't stop you from liking it or thinking it's cute. I totally get it. However, the Klantis, if that's how you say the name, are their own category of Clances. Every ship has some horrible people behind it that ruin the fun for everybody, but the Klantis are the absolute worst. Everybody knows how that one person blackmailed DreamWorks to make Klance canon, or they wouldn't take down the illegal leaks they had posted online. I think that's what really started it all off. This gave Clances a really bad reputation and in turn exposed the Klantis. The thing about Klantis is that outside of the ship they don't care about Lance or Keith. If Lance and Keith aren't together, well then it's shit. How dare Allura be in the way? Or even, heck yeah, she died, now our ship will be canon. Like no, stop, that's disgusting. What if Keith had sacrificed himself in season 4 and really had died? How would you feel if Allurance shippers went, heck yeah, Keith is dead, now Allurance will be canon? That sort of mentality is really immature and just shows that you don't care about the characters or the show. You only care about Klance becoming canon and proves that you're just a horny fujoshi who can't like something unless it's got gay written all over it, which in turn shows how shallow you are as a person. If you can only like or hate something based off of their sexuality, race, gender, political opinions, nationality, religion, or anything else, that makes you an immature and shallow person by default, and you can fight me on that. Look, I'm French, but just because something is French doesn't mean I'm automatically gonna like it. There needs to be more to someone than a single thing for me to like of them. I like comics. Just because you like comics doesn't mean we're gonna be besties. For all I know, you shit talk behind people's backs, which is something I hate, and I can't get along with you for that. At least shit talk in front of people if you're gonna be a jerk about it. I'm getting off topic. Back to the Klantis. What have the Klantis done? Well, they've harassed other shippers, they've harassed fans of other characters, they've forced their ship down everybody's throat, they've harassed an innocent woman on Twitter for combining her fucking name to make her username, threatened someone's job to get their ship that made canon, they've sent death threats to other fans and the staff of the show. After everything you have done, Klantis, do you really think you deserve Klance to be canon? Absolutely not. You deserve nothing. This isn't about a stupid ship anymore. This is about sad internet people with no lives attacking other people with lives, both for the internet and in the real world. It's gone beyond the show. It's illegal. That's called harassment and blackmail. And you know what? Despite everything that DreamWorks may have done wrong, I am freaking proud of them for not giving in to your bullies and not making Klance canon. You reap what you sow, and you sowed hatred, so that's what you're gonna get back. Don't start whining and sobbing just because you got a taste of your own medicine. Grow up! Again, this isn't at casual, normal Klancers, but at the Klantis who hate on anybody for not liking or / shipping Klance. I honestly feel horrible for the normal Klancers. They can't enjoy their own thing without being associated with Klantis. That's not fair. The second I saw Adam, I was like, I hate him. I don't know if anybody else has that, where they see a character and they immediately know if they'll hate or love the character. But yeah, I hated Adam from the get-go, and I don't ship Adashi at all. He's my least favorite character, and it's my least favorite ship. Let me explain why. In the canon, we are shown that Adam wants to stop Shiro from achieving his dream of going on a mission to space. Why is that? Because Adam wants Shiro to spend time with him? We're never told. Shiro has a condition that requires him to wear bracelets that electrically stimulate his muscles, which in the long run will make him unfit to be part of any missions. The worry in the show is that something will happen to Shiro because of that in space, where he won't be able to get the help he needs. Okay, fine, that's a completely fair worry. However, the creators said that Shiro and Adam had a long and happy relationship. Oh really? Well, if they had such a happy relationship, then Shiro would have talked to Adam about his dreams and ambitions, wouldn't he? And if it had been a long relationship, it means they would have spent plenty of time together and really discussed this, right? In the show, neither of these things have been shown. All we see is Adam, who is more than okay with leaving Shiro because Shiro wants to fulfill his lifelong dream. If they were so happy, Adam would have been way more understanding than that, and they would have come to some sort of compromise or something. We are never told that Shiro's condition is life-threatening, so why was Adam so angry at him going to space? Minus the whole Galra thing, they would have had the rest of their lives to spend together. The Kerberos mission was the last chance and opportunity for Shiro to go to space. After that, his condition would only get worse and he would never have another chance. Also, if Adam is so ready to leave Shiro over something like this, that just tells us that their relationship wasn't going well in the first place. Maybe they had a difference of interest. Maybe Adam wanted to settle down and get married, but Shiro wasn't ready to do that, or not yet at least. That would have been really interesting, but we're never shown this. The creators can say all they want that Adam was an amazing man in whatever interview they want, but all I saw was a controlling and entitled partner who was ready to leave Shiro over a mission that was originally meant to be only 2 months long. It pisses me off. That's not the result of a long and happy relationship, and you can't tell me otherwise. Also, Adam and Shiro, despite the whole fandom thinking they were going to get back together, were never going to get back together. When a couple gets a really bad breakup or a terrible event happens that leads a couple to break up, it's practically impossible for the two to get back together. An example. Let's say a couple is married and they have a child. If that child dies, one of two things can happen. The marriage falls apart due to the grief, or the relationship gets stronger and they help each other, move on. What happened with Adam and Shiro was the first one. They had a terrible falling apart. Everybody was really hyping up Adam as a character, but it was so blatantly obvious that he was never meant to be in the show in the first place, and that he was simply a throwaway character. Did the marketing team hype him up way too much? Yes, absolutely. I think they made him way too much of a big deal when he was in the show for like 2 seconds. Is it the voice actors, writers, or animators' fault? Absolutely not. They don't have control over the marketing team. The fandom got far too excited and hoped for far too much when it should have been obvious from the get-go that nothing was going to come from Adam. Although one thing that actually made me laugh, in season 8, I think it was either the ending of episode 1 or the beginning of episode 2, they had a close-up of the memorial wall where all the fallen soldiers' badges were. In my mind, I was like, okay, so they're gonna show Adam, but instead they showed Admiral Sander's badge. Admiral Sander was that woman who tried to make a deal with Sendak in season 7, stupidly, and then died, telling the Paladins to do what she couldn't do, which was save Earth. She is a widely disliked character, and I found it extremely funny how her badge was shown and not Adam's, just proving to me even more that Adam was a throwaway character that was never meant to be. That must have been such a slap in the face for majority of the extreme shippers of the fandom and even the casual Adashi shippers, and honestly I do feel kind of bad for them. Now we're already getting to the controversial topics. Okay, let's go. The idea that Lance was bi started off as a headcanon that the fandom took far too seriously, especially with that drawing of Lance holding the LGBT sign with Shiro, which was made by Lauren Montgomery, a co-executive producer. There was also a whole bunch said in interviews about Lance, but I'm big on the show don't tell rule. Like with Adam, you can tell me Lance is bi or pan or whatever all you want, but if you don't show it to me, I'm not taking it as canon. Telling me in an interview that he is whatever isn't good enough. You have to show it. You have to make it a thing in the show for it to be considered legit. I firmly believe that fans that see him as gay or bi is only because he is comfortable with his feminine side and has not so typical male hobbies and interests, like wearing face masks. That is such a stereotype, and I thought everybody was against stereotypes nowadays. Not to mention that people always seem to complain about toxic masculinity and how having masculine hobbies is such an evil thing. And here you have a male who likes to look pretty and yet flirts with girls. So he can't be completely straight? That's a really stupid idea and makes no sense. Like, what, can't somebody be interested in both masculine and feminine things and be straight anymore? Guess I must be the most closeted bisexual then, because I prefer to buy clothes at the boys section. I don't wear makeup if I can avoid it and dislike typical things marketed towards girls. Yet I have very strong motherly instincts, like dresses and skirts, and am attracted to men. I don't see why people can't just be left to enjoy their own things and not be, labeled a certain thing. I thought everybody was against being labeled things now. If I can be all of that, enjoy all of these things and be straight, then Lance can like to have a smooth and beautiful face and be just as straight. If you simply headcanon Lance as being bi or pan, that's fine, it's cool. But if you say that Lance is absolutely bi and that I'm a homophobe because I don't think so, then that's on you and I won't be bullied into that kind of mentality. Those kinds of people who want Lance to be bi is only so that he can be shipped with Keith to do Klance. If he was to be bi or pan, would I have an issue with it? Absolutely not, but show it to me in the canon. And now with Keith. Where did you get the idea that Keith was a gay-coded character? For those who don't know, gay-coded characters usually occur when characters or relationships are given traits associated with the LGBT people or community without explicitly stating that they are LGBT. It does not necessarily imply that the character that is presented as this is actually LGBT. Gay coding can be either positive or negative, although in the past it has often been negative. Even if Keith was gay coded, that doesn't mean by definition that he is actually gay. Again, if it's only a headcanon that Keith is gay, great, whatever. But if you try to force down my throat that Keith is absolutely gay and that I am a horrible person for not seeing the non-existent signs, I will absolutely reject it and create Kacxa fan art just to spite you because you tried and forced an idea on me without concrete proof. If the creators were to make it explicit that Lance or Keith weren't straight in the show, not in interviews, in the show, I'd be 100% chill with that, as long as it's done well. But an interview 3 years ago that Lance would flirt with anything isn't proof that Lance is bi. For all we know, it's a joke, and since this hasn't been portrayed in the show, it can't be canon. And anyway, flirting doesn't inherently have to be romantic, it can just be for shits and giggles too. The fandom takes everything far too seriously and far too literally for their own good. LeaKira is a cyberpunk AU set 10 years in the future where Klance is canon. That's pretty much it, or that's all I could find anyway. It suddenly exploded with fanart and headcanons when the creators of the alternate universe, or AU, released the idea on social media that they wanted to do a remake of Voltron in 10 years called Defenders of Tomorrow, but featuring the new characters' names and personality traits. However, nothing official is actually happening despite the rumors you might hear. It's basically Voltron with a different aesthetic and gay. Basically a safe space for Clancers, which is fine, I don't particularly care. However, the whole thing is just one big fever dream joke. Some people think it's the best thing ever, Others don't care, and other people believe that it's disrespectful to the original Voltron Legendary Defender creators because people want to reboot the show because their ship didn't happen. I don't really care, but I do still think it's stupid to want to create a completely new reboot just because your ship isn't canon. It's immature and, like I said before, shows your shallowness as a person. If the only thing you can like about Defenders of Tomorrow is that it's gay, even if there's no actual story or plot, then that's just sad. But hey, if this AU becomes a little community of its own, then maybe all the toxic Clances and Klantis will leave, and the chill Clances can finally be free and ship Klance without having to be associated with jerks and harassers that gave them a bad reputation. Honestly, like I said before, I do feel bad for the chill Clances. You guys can't get a break. Oof, that was long, but I really needed to get that all off of my chest. Again, if I miss anything out in the video, I'll make a part 2, either expanding my thoughts on something or talking about something I didn't mention that I think still needs mentioning. I hope you guys could enjoy this video despite my probably controversial opinions. Please don't scream at me in the comments, since this is only my subjective opinion after all, and everybody is allowed to like and dislike their own things, no matter how much it may piss us off. If you disagree with me, great, just please don't insult me or anybody else in the comment section. If I do see some particularly nasty comments in the comment section, be it to me or more importantly to other people, I will ask you to stop and delete them, because it doesn't matter if you agree or disagree with me, you don't get to be jerks to other people just because you have a disagreement. Anyway, what can we get out of this video? Well, Voltron is a fun show that wasn't able to reach its full potential, but was fun all the same. The fandom takes everything too seriously, and the only thing worth fighting for in this show is the Galra. Okay, that's subjective, but still. Anyway, I would like to leave on a final note. Klance isn't canon king. Klance is fanon king. Bye bye.
Go Galra! Go Galra! Go Galra!